style that you want to employ works against him, leave him open. He'll work against your enemy if they have to choose him, or if they're picking him out of fear of you choosing him. That's often the case, and you get a lot of people playing Superman that aren't overly comfortable playing him, but they will pick him up just to stop the enemy team taking him away. And speaking of comfort picks, we do see a Malok being locked in, and there's a L'Oreal as well, and a Lubu. Now, Lubu we saw in a couple of games yesterday, and Lubu is one of those heroes that, with the early mobility that he has, can really get into that playmaking situation if there's an invade, if there is those early strategies. Zephyrus and Raz look like they're going to round out those first 3 picks. No, they've gone for the Jinnar over the Raz for Myth. How are we feeling about these picks so far, JB?
So today we're actually seeing Zenio take the bench, and I always talk about him. I actually like him as one of mine as well, and how he's underestimated. Today doesn't seem to be the case. They will not take that chance. They will leave him out. Malik, of course, coming out, and as tanky as he could get and the damage he can put out, he's not that big of a threat. So he can be played. He's a great play, but he can still be dealt with. Now, Jinnar is we're actually seeing for the second time today as well. Interesting to see that they're playing him through and through. And of course, Lubu we're seeing again. And the Lubu that I remember is quite formidable, depending on how you want to go about it. He can either poke you and just keep you in place, or he's going to follow up on you, chase you to the ends of the earth, and you've got no way to answer that unless your team comes and helps you. But can't rule out that Zero Gravity did pull out Xanis this time around, and they have the Ormar and Lindis on their team. So that's an interesting comp to already pull out in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I saw the Jinnar, my support brain was ringing. No, support bells were ringing for Amina. Mina, one of my favorite heroes in the game, and synergizes so well with the Jinnar. You can lock multiple heroes down with your Dark Dominion, and then with Nirvana over the top of them, that's a lot of people that can't do a lot of damage. Also, I'm very surprised we did not see an Alice pick up there for Zero Gravity. Alice into Mina. Alice was open, and Mina had already been picked. And Alice is an extreme counter to Mina. The Hissy Fit literally put in a complete halt to the CC chain of Mina, and would definitely help in slowing the Nirvana onslaught from Jinnar as well. But they opted for an Ormar. Ormar obviously producing a lot of CC, and by late game, that CC and those stuns come fast and regular. Going to be an interesting game for sure. And I do like that the Slims has been picked up here. Slims, really a way more popular pick in Southeast Asia than I've seen elsewhere. But whenever I do encounter him on the EU server, generally really impressed with the hero itself. Able to shred tanks very effectively in the late game. And in this tanky meta, when you're against sort of an Ormar, a Malok, a Xanis, he's going to do some serious work. And if you can land that stun on something like a Lindis from a decent distance, you've got a lot of CC and a lot of aggression coming up from the rest of your team. So Myth could be getting that snowball going very early if they can land those spears. But we will go into our break for the and we go into, sorry, not break, pause. We go into a pause at the beginning of these games, guys, just to emphasize, to allow 30 seconds for all players to find their way into the game. Obviously, everyone has different connection speeds, and we want the games to be fair and everyone on a level pegging. So this is why it's done. But with those teams locked in now, before we get into the action, JBZ, how do you feel about these compositions? What are you liking about these?
So far on Myths, the biggest thing is going to be, one of the biggest playmakers is going to be Mina. If she can pull them in, and then everyone else can collapse on that. That's one big major play. The other major play is Slims. Depending how many times he can land that spear, will also be, and of course the range of if he gets it off at all, then that could cause some issues. If he catches anybody out early, or even in the mid to late game, that spear is just so, the stun is just annoying to work with. So that's something Myth's got going. They've got two different combos they can work with here. But as you can see, they are going to do an early invade and get that aggression going like I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, there's the 4-man invade onto the Might Golem of Zero Gravity, and Zero Gravity do answer 5 men in fact, and that's a lot more damage than I think Myth had planned for them, as we see the onslaught start already, and that is going to force Myth onto the back foot. They tried to play their aggression. They realized they're not going to get anywhere with it. However, Mina does get picked up by the Xanis, in fact. So the first, well, actually, we saw 2 kills go over there to the Zero Gravity side. So that early aggression from Myth not going in their favor at all.
And that actually brings us to the review that I was going to give for Zero Gravity, is as much as Myth has the aggressive team early game, Zero Gravity has the safety defense. You know, we just seen what Malik just did there, along with everyone else, Xanis all around it. And with all those early AoEs to hit people, that obviously caused some issues, as we just saw.
Yeah, it's when you make those aggressive plays early, and they pan out for you, it is such a comfortable feeling. It's such a great early feeling in game. But when it goes the other way, it's very frustrating. And we can see here, Myth, they'll go 2 ways with this. Either this will reassure them that they need to kind of, okay, we underestimated the enemy, we're going to keep this aggressive play going, or it might force them onto the back foot. And as you stated before, JB, sometimes playing too defensive can actually go against the team. In this top lane, though, we can see Malok and the Lubu going at it. I love that Lubu skin. I don't see that skin enough. Lubu very aware of the potential dangers around him. Maybe not aware enough as he starts making his way into the bush. If he hadn't spotted Xanis there, I think that would have been a kill onto him. But unfortunately, Xanis not making his way into the brush just in time as they try to pick up the vision. However, after spotting 3 members of the Zero Gravity side top, we see Myth immediately turn their attention to Abyssal Dragon. Great knowledge, great play there from Myth. Just good awareness to call that shot, to shot call that just so quickly.
You know, and that's one of the other biggest things is if you're a solo laner and you're up top, your greatest ally is your turret at the beginning of the game. Believe it or not, like we just saw there, 3 people going up to try and take him. Some people think solo is an easy kill, and they're going to try for it. But he was playing cautious. He didn't go overextend. He did almost get caught out in that situation with Xanis, but luckily he was able to spot it, and he was get out of that. That allowed Myth to actually secure the objective that they needed, and Lindis wasn't there in time to intercept that. And those are the kind of plays that they're actually looking for. They're paying that literally let you know that they're paying attention to the map, and map awareness is key always.
Yeah, you can see Myth here trying to return that favor as they tried to lock down that Malok, but it won't be enough. And Malok will just play it safe under tower now. Spirit Sentinel, you can see getting very low here, and Master was thinking about trying to steal it, but he'll take a little bit of poke from Lubu, in fact. Will return some, and they're just going to trade that out evenly, but Spirit Sentinel did go over to Myth in that situation. And we can see that despite the 2-1 kill lead for Zero Gravity, the gold lead actually sits with Myth at this point in time. It's not a huge lead, but it's there.
It's definitely there, and of course, Myth is going to go back to the aggressive strategy again. They're going to go with round 2. This time, going more in their favor as Zero Gravity is split up this time, but not much to really take out of it. And so, as they pull back out of that, they're going to go back to their safety lanes and just run things. They're doing the best they can to try and juke each other out, play each other, and figure where they're going to go, what they're going to do. You know, you can see them running in groups, which is what we've been seeing throughout most of these games. And as much as that works out, you do want to make sure you get something out of it, because otherwise you are losing gold.
Yeah, Lindis is one of those heroes that you do want to see farmed up. Often in the EU, we do see Lindis played in the jungle position and plays a fairly passive jungle position. You don't see a lot of ganks. You see a lot of almost AFK farming with them coming into fruition in the late game. And here you can see that Lindis has basically been given this solo lane. The vision that she's had been generally keeping her safe until this point. But now Nirvana being used as well as they descend onto the enemies here. Myth are doing great damage here, but that's the rest of the team coming in as well. Myth are going to have to back off now a little bit, but we did see Lindis actually manage to make it out alive there. Abyssal Dragon now going to be the focus for Zero Gravity. Myth are aware, but they aren't going to be able to do anything about it.
So as you can see, Myth is going aggressive, and we see this all the time. And what Zero Gravity is doing is they're just playing the wait-see game, and they're going to try and capitalize on it, which we've seen in the other games. And it's working. It's going the back-and-forth route. This is the juggling that we're talking about. It's going to constantly keep going. And you can see Jenna just secured a double kill, and they're putting as much pressure as they can. The middle turret is almost down, and they could do what they want, but now Lindis is also pretty farmed up as well, so she's going to start getting involved in these fights. And that alone, whether she does punish build or lane build, is a force to reckon with.
Yeah, I mean, at this stage as well, we did see the Sonic Boots being picked up there by the Jinna. If you look over at the Zero Gravity side, you can see that with the exclusion of L'Oreal, they are very, very much, attack damage. So having that little bit of early armor is going to do great wonders for the Myth side. Sonic Boots picked up there for the Zephys as well. And also, because their team has been generally so mobile, Myth picking up these boots rather late in the game. We're 6 minutes in, and they're now picking up these boots in completion. A lot of times you'll see those boots come in that little bit earlier. So you can see they're looking at the items, that a lot of them opting for another item before opting for boots. Now, again, over in EU, you'll often see boots being the first item picked up by most players. But this is a huge four-man gank on the top side here, trying to take down that Malok. He stayed alive longer than they expected him to, but he did go down eventually, and this does free up this top tower for them. But the rest of Zero Gravity are slowly making way top, and that's a lot of pressure applied to mid as well, forcing Jinnar back under tower, using that Nirvana as well. Sitting on about a quarter of his health now. Meanwhile, Lindis makes her way back to bot, as does Slims. And you can see in the mid here, you do have a good grab there by the Mina, but it wasn't enough. Dark Dominion was used, but Ormar managing to dash out of the way just in time beforehand, so not quite quick enough there for Dabstar. And Nan in the top lane is just going to be stealing away some of that jungle. These teams are looking very aggressive on both sides at this point in time, going back and forth, and that gold lead still staying within 1k difference.
That's exactly what you want to do. If you're on your opponent, whether you're defense or offense, and of course, as you can see here, Myth is nitpicking. They're looking for things. So like how they were going on top here, and now that top is down, they can leave Lubu to do what he wants to do best. Now you can see Zephys them are focusing on the dragon over on bottom side, and there is possibly a fight that happens, but they're just trying to get that opening. And right now, Zero Gravity's not getting that opening, but they are holding a pretty decent defense right now. So as they build it up, Lorio is going to get caught up to things. Lindis has been trying to hold the Slims back down bottom, so she hasn't been present for most of these mid fights like it's happening right now. And yeah.
I was just going to say, you saw the grab and the Dark Dominion used there by Mina, but very little follow-up. And onto Ormar, not the ideal target. That is on a very low cooldown, and now they do have the positioning with Malok in the top lane. Lubu is there also, but you can see now we have Slims waiting in the wings, hoping to land that spear. Let's look where that spear goes in this team fight as that Abyssal Dragon goes down to half health, slowly slipping down to a quarter, and the rest of Zero Gravity do come in, and that is going to be a steal by the L'Oreal. However, that's an immediate go signal for the Jinnar, who takes down the L'Oreal on the back line. Lindis going to pick up the kill in return. Meanwhile, the shot coming down from Malok does great work in breaking up Myth. Myth all sitting on very low health. Lindis looking pretty good as well, and that is going to be a great steal there from Zero Gravity, and I think they basically traded out on kills there essentially. Now 6-6 and even on kills with only 0.2 of 1,000, so 200 gold difference now between these two teams at this point in the game. That is huge.
And right on that dragon, Myth had their eye on the prize. They wanted to go for it. And Zero, as their positioning actually wasn't the best, still made the most of it. L'Oreal said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do this for the team. She goes, she gets it, tries to get back out, and I think they knew. They knew that the Jinnar was going to just go through on it. But if you get the dragon, you take it away from the team, that's a pretty huge objective to take. And yeah, they did trade kills for it, but at the end of the day, the objective is still higher.
Yeah, I agree. And the objective will take the priority, and they were right in making sure they secured that. Like I say, Myth did great in managing to at least pick up some kills in return, but really good play there from Zero Gravity. Now playing very defensive around this mid tower. You can see just how low that tower is, and Myth want that tower. With that tower down, it will provide less visibility, less safety for the Zero Gravity side. They're trying to steal away the Might Golem right now. The Zero Gravity are very aware of this, and it might be just a bit of a bait that they need in. Shock comes down, huge knockup, big AoE coming out from Jinnar as well, Nirvana being used, and that is doing great work for them. As Zero Gravity start falling one by one, L'Oreal will go down as well. Spear came out, but it didn't matter because she was already dead. Double kill for Jinnar there as Myth turn her attention to this mid tower, and that is going to be another tower and another objective secured by Myth as they turn their attention. They may even start looking for this high ground tower, because with only Zanis and Lindis alive and Lubu pushing top, they have to choose which tower they're going to save. But you saw how just quickly that look how tanky Jinnar gets when he pops that Nirvana, and just how much damage he managed to do to both Zanis and Lindis. He did die though, however, I think for his trouble, but that's a half health high ground tower there from Myth, and that was a bit of a that was the make or break moment for Myth, because that's actually finally pushed them into about a 2k gold lead.
That is indeed a make it or break it moment. And Jinnar, going back to just how his kit is, and of course, like you talked about with his Nirvana, whenever it's activated, and now he's got that shield and resistance, it is just going to cause so much problems. And what's happening is Zero Gravity keeps running into the team fights as a group, and that just gives Jinnar perfect way. And he always uses it during those team fights, every single time, in perfect succession with his team.
Yeah, we did see Myth there attempt an Abyssal Dragon, but great work there from Zero Gravity in forcing a reset. They're now going to have a go at it themselves. Myth are hovering. Zephyrus were looking to dive in, but it's taken too quickly for their liking. And there is the immediate Nirvana combined with the shock. Great work there. Ormar going to be picking up the kill onto Mina, though, and that will be them going down as Jinnar picks up a kill onto the L'Oreal. Zephyrus will dive over the wall, trying to get to safety. Malok managed to pick up that kill onto the Jinnar, but Zephyrus, the wrong side of the jungle. Meanwhile, in the top lane, we see Lubu doing what Lubu does as he pushes down that top side high ground tower. And Jekko in the bot side on that Slims. Slims have been a bit underestimated during these team fights. He's kind of just sitting on the back line, very comfortable, because it's wow, okay. That was a marksman versus marksman damage trade-off, if you ever saw one, as both of them trade out and die to each other, Romeo and Juliet style. But yeah, Ormar there picked up as well by Lubu. There's non-stop action in this team, in these fights. JB, take over for a second. Give me a break and tell me, what do you think? What do you think is going on here? Like these guys going back and forth. What's going to change it? What's going to be the big moment that is going to put this one way or the other?
Well, as we can see right now, Myth is just like, they realize that it's going back and forth too long, so they're going to hop on that Dark Slayer and attempt to make that final push that they want to go through. But like we see in the fights, the last dragon that they tried to take, it was really late. They might have miscalculated that one a bit and they jumped in, but I don't think it didn't matter, because like we saw earlier as well, Lubu was up top the whole time. He wasn't in that fight. And Slims, I was going to mention the reason why he was being undermined is because Lindis is about to eliminate him. But as we said, you know, he got Jinnar ulted, and well, that actually was an old thing that's going on in this team fight. I'm getting so mixed up in my words right now, but the team fight is happening. And Myth is going to be cleaned up by Zero Gravity here, actually making things happen. And Myth still has some fighting them with Lubu taking the charge, and Jinnar still available to go through that fight. They are going to catch out on the Xanis there. He's going to be taken down. Double kill on Lubu, but it's not over yet. Ormar is there for the defense. Slims is alive, though. If he's going to get this mid-turret, they could end the game.
They could easily end the game here with Ormar the only sole survivor. He's going to try to clear the minion wave as best as he can, because with the minions present, that base becomes a lot squishier. However, with that much damage coming out from the enemy team, it's not going to matter, and Myth will pick up that kill and pick up that win. Great play there from Myth in pulling it back, and from what looked like a very balanced game to ending up on about 7k gold lead by the end of the game. That escalated really quickly for Myth. So well played by both teams, and GG. Let's take a look at those items. What are we thinking looking at those builds there?
Jinnar, we're seeing exactly what we saw on a lot of the Jinnars that we saw as well. The main two is Arctic Orb and Tomb of the Reaper. Of course, with the picks that is coming out, it makes sense. You know, you have Xanis and L'Oreal being the huge one that you want to counter. But Orb, being as it is, in NA, it's not that well favored, but it does provide, of course, stability, and you can actually keep yourself in lane for a while. But yeah, Jinnar's been shining in a lot of these games.
Yeah, in these AoE-based compositions, essentially, Jinnar will go in, pop Nirvana, utilize it. The second it runs out, he will orb, while the rest of his team clear up the enemy team, who are now sat on half health, quarter health. Obviously, the Tomb of the Reaper is going to allow for an AoE reduced healing effect as well, which is going to synchronize really well with that Nirvana. Really good play in that regard. And you can just see as well that 406 Lubu, he played a great solo lane. He played very patiently in the early game, and throughout the late game, whenever these team fights broke out or an advantage was had, he was pushing and pushing and pushing. And we saw situations where Abyssal Dragon means a lot to a team, but it doesn't mean as much as a high ground tower. So forcing the enemy team to react to you trying to take an Abyssal Dragon or fighting over Abyssal Dragon while you solo push top is a great tactic, because it allowed them to take, the enemy team might have been able to steal the Abyssal Dragon, but it cost them a high ground tower. And at the end of the day, that is a trade that Myth will take every single day. Great plays all around. Really enjoyed that game. Any closing points about that game that you want to make, JB?
Just that I wanted to make sure I got the point across about the Lindis and the Slims of how they eliminated each other, and that you underestimate them to a certain degree, but at the end of the day, Slims is very, very good as an